I'm going to tell you why this 4070 Ti is actually a gem and how it compares to a 3070 and why I think the internet is wrong about this graphics card. Alright. Well, we have the 4070 Ti. So, I'm sure everyone knows about this card already. I'm sure you've probably heard some drama on YouTube about it. No big deal. We're gonna put this in my wife's computer. I really think it's a good value if you can get it at MSRP. The problem was a lot of these people were scalping these on day one. A lot of people didn't think it was going to be a good value, so you had a lot of people coming out ahead of it saying it wasn't a good value, like Linus Tech Tips. A few other people were spreading a bunch of misinformation, like Not an Apple Fan. He was spewing hate for it immediately before it even hit the shelf, saying that, oh, he had information saying it was going to be 850 at the minimum. There will be no MSRP models. He went as far as saying that he thinks that the cheapest one you'll be able to find is 950. He says his sources told him all kinds of stuff. He was wrong. I got this at MSRP. In fact, this card you can still get if you look around. Tons of other MSRP models. Anyways, is it a bad value? Should you upgrade? Those are the questions that we're going to cover. First, we're going to do the unboxing, and then we'll get into a comparison between an RTX 3070 to the 4070 Ti. I think it is a good upgrade. I think it is a good card for the right price. Do I like the price? Not particularly, but you also have to understand we've had everything else go up in inflation. We've got eggs at double the price. We've got milk and bread and cars, and everything else on the market has gone up. So GPUs aren't exempt. There's no exemption in the law that says you can't raise the price of a GPU. There's no exemption that stops people from doing that. Now, is it Newegg raising the price? Is it Best Buy raising the price? Is it Nvidia just pulling the price out of their butt? I don't think so, guys. I think there's more at play than what you're being told. There's labor costs, there's material costs, there's shipping costs, which has gone up tenfold since the pandemic. There's so much stuff that's in play here that you've got to understand that these cards aren't going to be free. They're not going to be the price that they used to be 2 years ago. They're never going to go back to that, at least for the foreseeable future. We're going to have kind of a come to Jesus meeting here and pony up a little bit more money if you want to get a certain class of GPU new at retail. If you want to look on the used market, yes, there's better values out there, but there's not a lot of people that are going to just go willy-nilly on eBay and buy a used GPU without doing their homework first. And most of you know that there's been mining cards and so forth, and a lot of people are fear tacticked out of buying those. But I have no problem with mining GPUs. Here's where the problem is. It's not the mining itself, it's the seller itself. So if you vet that the seller is good and you make sure they have good feedback and they're selling you a quality product that they can back up, then it's fine. When you buy cards from someone who has one or two feedback and this is the first thing they've sold, then no, you need to run away. You need to run away real fast. I've bought mining cards that had been run for years. No problems. None. They still run today. No one will ever know. They run just fine. It's all about temperatures. If the person who's mining keeps the temperatures well within spec, they keep their fans cleaned, they're not going to have a problem. Alright. We're going to get into it. That was my ramble. That was my rant. So, alright. So, this is the 4070 Ti. This is the Asus TUF model. I've actually been a really big fan of the Asus TUF model because I've got the 4090 in my rig. I actually like it. I think the temps are amazing. Coming from a 3080 to this was a huge upgrade. It's a little chunky. It's a little big. There's a few things I don't like about it, but we're going to see. Kind of curious to know what the difference is in the size between the two. There's the box up there for my 4090, and they do look similar. So let's see. Let's unbox this bad boy. We'll look around for a second here. This is not the OC model. However, I don't think it's worth the extra money for the OC model, and I'll tell you why. Lately, I've been seeing a lot of people buy the non-OC models and overclock them to the OC models with ease, and I just don't think it's worth the extra $100 or $200 or whatever. So, let's get into it. I need to get a new knife. This razor blade is kinda junk. Nice squeaky box. Now, if this is, yeah, it is like the other one, except it doesn't have rounded corners. This one lifts up, which I do like. I like that. When a manufacturer puts some thought into the box, in my opinion, it just feels better when you're buying it because it's, you don't feel like they're just giving you a really cheap product. If you look at MSI GPUs, for example, like the MECH, it's like the cheapest one they have. The box is just so generic, there's nothing in it. It's absolutely junk. Now I know a lot of you don't like this. There's a solution. Go on Amazon and get one of these. Only the ones made by Cable Mod. Don't get the cheap Amazon knockoff ones because they use much thinner cables inside. And they do have issues with those. I bought one, I immediately returned it. The Cable Mod ones are, in my opinion, the best on the market. The Nvidia ones are fine too, it's just you got a dongle. Nobody really likes that dongle. I guess this is like a cable strap. I don't know why they're giving that to you. Oh, yes! Oh, yes! Haha! Oh, so I got that with my 4090. These are so cool. It's a GPU support stick. Because these GPUs are so heavy, they create a little bit of GPU sag sometimes. But check it out, you get a mini screwdriver. I mean, that's worth like $5 right there by itself, and it's metal. So that's cool. I wasn't expecting that in a 70 class. So you got some stuff here, probably some type of like card, some stickers, some other stuff in here. I don't think anybody's really gonna care much about the stuff in here, but I always like to keep my boxes and keep all my stuff in here intact. Okay. The crinkle might bother you, so close your ears. Here it is. So it's a bit of a chonky boy, but it's actually not that bad. I don't think it's as big. Yeah, it's not as big. It's a little bit shorter, which is great. It's not as thick either, I don't think. It's got some heft to it. It's got some weight to it. Just tuck those little cables out of the way. They always give you a little bit of extra cable, so if you ever want to take this thing apart, you don't have to worry too much about not being able to pull that out. The PCB looks pretty good. The cooling is very, very, very sufficient. I know that because the cooler on that one does really well. They've got all the core components covered. Huge vapor chamber right here, or whatever they're using, I guess. Yeah, they're using heat pipes and all that stuff. So yeah, one connector here. They really screwed the pooch. Nvidia, if you're listening, put the freaking connector on the back, like somewhere. Like, this is just dumb. Like, can we just not do this in 2023 anymore? What's this? It's kind of weird. There's like a little square cut out right there. It's odd. I'm sure when I remove the film, it'll look normal. Yeah, that's odd. Strange. Okay. Normal Asus TUF GPU. All the 40 series seem to kind of follow the same trend. I really don't know what all these kind of stickers and markings, like what their thought process with all this is. Like some coordinates here. It's kind of cheesy in my opinion. The huge honking GeForce RTX logo there is a little much. TUF Gaming, it's a little much. The RGB light here is pretty tasteful. It's not too much RGB, and they really could have done some more with the backplate with the RGB. I'm okay with this design, but I just think that some of this stuff is a bit much. It's a bit busy, in my opinion. They also need to make some more white versions of GPUs, because a lot of you are talking to me and asking me where they could find a white GPU at. Ever since they watched the waifu build, everybody's asking about that still. And the answer is there's just not much out there. Manufacturers don't really care. It also costs more to manufacture white. The dye for the plastic costs more money. There's more quality control issues because it has to look clean when it comes out. Or either they have to paint it, and paint doesn't always last as long. It takes longer to dry. So there's a lot of drawbacks with manufacturing a white GPU. A lot of people don't think about that. Other than that, I mean, it looks great. It looks great. I'm actually very happy with it. Quality and fit and finish is good. I don't see any defects or anything. Yeah. So stay tuned. We might have some testing in this video. We might not. We might just go ahead and pop this one out on the interwebs. So tell me what you think. At MSRP, is it a buy? I think so. I mean, if you're working with a GPU that you maybe just need a little bit more out of, you know, maybe it's not worth the upgrade. Maybe if you're working with a 3070, it might not be worth going out and buying. If you're running maybe like a 3060, yeah, it might be worth buying. It really depends on the resolution you're trying to play at, the games you're trying to play at, and the temps you're trying to achieve. I think the 40 series runs a little cooler, and it can run just a little bit quieter with the fan speeds and all that, not having to run as high. So there's that. My wife has a smaller room for her office, and it gets really hot in the summers. The 3070 that she has now, it runs a little on the warmer side, so we wanted to try and test this out and see how the room temps were, see how the power usage was, the efficiency, and see if it will save a little bit of headache. Alright, my friends, it is time to enter the matrix of data. Let's look at the numbers, see how it stacks up. 3070 versus 4070 Ti. Let's go. Alright, so we're going to show you the side-by-side comparison between a 3070 and a 4070 Ti. No tuning, no adjustments, or anything like that. Basically, I use Furmark and I use superposition just as a quick reference so you can see the differences. Alright, first off, the 3070 is on the left. It scored 11,288 points, about 188 FPS average. GPU temp was around 70, and those are at stock fan curves. We got over here about an average of 188, as I said, maxed out about 190, and the minimum was 184. Not too bad. Now, if you look over here at the 4070 Ti, it's more than double. It actually really did surprisingly well in Furmark. So your benchmarks and your game benefits may vary. So keep that in mind. You know, some benchmarks are gonna show a little bit bigger gap between the two. 23,110 points, 385 FPS average. That's pretty insane. That's almost double, if not double. We dropped the temperature by about 2 degrees, and it's quieter. I noticed that the fans weren't making noise. They barely ramped up, if any. So we also can look down here at the GPU clocks. The average clock was around 2.5 gigahertz, and the memory was about 10,500. And if you look over here, memory is about 7,000, and the core is about 1.86 gigahertz. So you've got a much faster GPU core, and you've also got much faster memory and memory bandwidth. So a lot of games are going to take advantage of that. So I like to play Modern Warfare and first-person shooter games, and then also play a lot of Forza, and you know, those games tend to be more GPU bound, and you might see more of an increase in those type of games. If you're playing something like CPU based, however, maybe CSGO or something, you might not notice as big of a difference between these two GPUs. So keep that in mind. Now we're going to look at the superposition scores. Now this one is kind of interesting. It got 17,783. Minimum FPS is 104, and the average is about 133, and the max about 178. If you look over here, the minimum was slightly better, but the average FPS was much higher. And that's where a lot of people don't really pay attention. They just look at this peak number right here, and that's it. I like to look at what they call the lows, or the 1% lows, and kind of look at what is going to be your bottom frame drop. So during a very intense scene where it's loading in a lot of new textures, how low is it actually going to drop? So also we look right over here at the temperatures. Now this is interesting. Furmark is a little bit of a different benchmark than superposition. So you're actually going to see a lot of temperature difference here, which is very interesting. This GPU is the 3070, and it minimumed out at 50, but it maxed out at 72. That's a big swing right there in temperatures. Now come over here. This is why I wanted to go with this GPU. We wanted to drop the room delta a little bit under games in the summer. Her room gets really hot in the summer because of her GPU. She had a 3080, it was too hot in there. She even had a 3090, now it was just unbearable. So we dialed it back to 3070. Now she was kind of worried about going up to a 4070 Ti because it's going up a class in GPU, but these coolers are just much more efficient, and they're more power efficient in every way. So look at that, 66 degrees. That is 6 degrees difference in the max temperatures right there, and about 10 degrees difference in the minimum temperatures. So I really think that 27,773 versus that, it's an extra 10,000 points. That may not equate to you, may not even matter to you. But does power efficiency matter? Does temperatures matter? Does the 1% lows matter? I really want people to kind of like take those into consideration when you're shopping for a GPU, because if you're running a 144 hertz monitor, you're probably going to cap out your frames at 144 hertz anyway. So these numbers probably won't even matter to you. But if you're playing like an FPS game, then maybe you do want to have them up all the way. So take those into consideration. Every GPU recommendation that I see people giving is based on their personal experience a lot of times, and not necessarily the person who's asking. So if someone asks me, hey, what's the best GPU? I ask you a lot of questions. I say, hey, well, what game are you playing? What CPU do you have? Because you could be CPU bound, or you could be CPU bottleneck, basically. So if you have an older 8700K i7 and you're looking at getting like a 4070 Ti or 4080, you're going to be GPU bottlenecked. So basically there's going to come at a point where your GPU isn't going to be fully scaling as it would on another CPU. So those choices matter. Hope this helps. Best I can say is if you have doubts about a GPU choice you're looking at, or you want to know what my opinion is, feel free to hit me up in the comments. I'm always happy to help. So anyways, that's it. Wanted to come back with a quick little benchmark test, and I guess that's it, my friends.
Oh, and in case I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.